Thank you, Chair Mikowski, Ranking Member Cantwell. We've had a string of very unfortunate events recently happen in Montana. Most are linked to federal court decisions that I know, Chief Tidwell, you're aware. We have seen good, responsible, common sense, collaborative forest management projects shut down because of the Cottonwood decision. And then just 2 weeks ago, we saw the halt of a thoroughly researched and vetted Forest Service project, the Montanore Mine. The Forest Service estimates this project will provide full employment of 450 people at full production with an annual payroll of $12 million during the production phase of operations, and the indirect economic benefits are even greater. This is in an area of Montana that has some of the highest unemployment in our state. In fact, this is Lincoln County. I remember a conversation a few years ago with a couple in Lincoln County, and they said, Steve, what we basically have up here in northwest Montana is poverty with a view. And we have these elitists that will sometimes fly in on their private jets and seek to shut down what's going on in Montana in terms of common sense, responsible natural resource operations. Likewise, this mine will provide important minerals such as silver and copper that the United States uses in everything from our phones to wind turbines. Chief Tidwell, can you give me an update on what the next steps are for the Montanore project? And do you share my commitment to see this important project move forward?
So we're currently just reviewing the decision that we received on that project, and at this point, haven't determined, the next steps, but we're just currently reviewing that decision.
Yeah, I can't think of a strong enough term, but outrageous would come to mind for starters of what happened there, and we need to get that resolved. Chief Tidwell, I strongly support the administration's emphasis on increasing management in our national forests, but I think we can and must improve management on federal lands while continuing efforts to also improve forest health on family-owned and cross-boundary lands. As we all know, wildfire is not a respecter of the boundaries that we draw on maps, and neither is forest management. I recently joined Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota in sponsoring legislation to encourage partnerships between the state forest and the Forest Service to carry out such landscape restoration efforts. My question, Chief Tidwell, is can you speak to the value of empowering state foresters to do more cross-boundary work, including on national forests, using this Good Neighbor Authority?
Well, Senator, the Good Neighbor Authority is also proving to be very, very successful. And it took a couple years for us to kind of put the process together where we worked very closely with the state foresters so that we had a process that not only worked for us, but more importantly, worked for them. And because of that, we are moving forward to be able to increase the work that's getting done on the national forests. And your point about that we need to be looking at this more as an all lands approach is exactly what needs to occur. We need to be reducing the fuels, thinning out our forests on both sides of the fence. Doing it on just one side doesn't accomplish the problem. Doesn't accomplish the success that we're after. So Good Neighbor Authority, we currently have, I think we're doing 74 projects across the country. We have 8 master agreements with states, and we're planning to increase that. And so almost every month we're bringing on another state that wants to work with us. And we've had some good examples in your state where we're working closely together. Your state has also provided additional resources to be able to increase the amount of work because they recognize the difference that this can make. And it's, yes, the jobs are essential. Being able to maintain the industry is absolutely essential. But it's also the difference that we're making on the ground to reduce that threat, to be able to prevent that black landscape, to have more green.
In a recent discussion 2 weeks ago in Montana, we had members of the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation there with us. So we talk about wildfire, reducing wildfire risk. We talk about jobs, but wildlife habitat is something we're seeing now. Elk populations declining, not because of wolves, not because of hunting pressure, but because of the forests have gotten so thick, the elk aren't able to get to the grass because the canopies then prevent the sunlight from getting down on the ground and having basically habitat for our elk. Lastly, to follow up, would you agree that landscape scale wildfire mitigation across all forest ownerships is both necessary and crucially important?
Without any question. And we have the studies that show that if we take this all lands approach, we can be highly successful and have a very different consequence when we do get fire. And we'll continue to have fire, but there's a big difference from a fire that has a lightly burned to moderate burn that it's easy to suppress, reduces the risk to our firefighters, versus some of the severe fires that you've seen in your state.
All right, thank you, Chief Tidwell.